I'm Brian Rose, and this is Time and Space on the Lower East Side. It's a book about 30 years of history of the Lower East Side, going back to 1980, when I first came to New York, and recently, in the last couple of years, re-photographing the neighborhood and seeing the changes that have occurred over that time period. The cover image of the book is a view looking straight down East 4th Street. That's the block, actually, that I lived on when I first came to New York. It's the block where I met my wife, right, in fact, to the left of where the photograph was taken. I have a very emotional connection to that photograph. And then there's the festive sort of fluttering of colored cloth that's hanging across the street. I think it's a sort of perfect beginning for telling the story. There's a photograph that's similar in that it's looking straight down a street. It was Henry Street, towards the Twin Towers. It's a picture that's very spooky to look at now. One of the things about the Twin Towers was that it had a way of almost dematerializing in the sky sometimes, particularly if it was a sort of white, cloudy condition, or sometimes at dusk, the building would almost shimmer a little bit as if it was beginning to dissolve. My favorite picture from 1980 is the one of a woman in a fur coat and a BMW in this very desolate scene near Avenue D. You can't figure out what's going on. Why is she there? There are drug dealers in the scene. There's the fur coat, which you wouldn't see nowadays anyway, but then it was more common. And I think it's humorous, but I think it's also indicative of the kind of odd juxtapositions that occur in New York all the time. It's an interesting thing what change looks like in photographs, and particularly in a place like the Lower East Side. There are a lot of things that are obvious. There's more money in the Lower East Side. Things are more cleaned up. There are not as many vacant lots. There are no more abandoned buildings. On the other hand, it's still a pretty gritty place. It still has a kind of connected feeling to something very basic about what New York is about the life on the street, about the architecture of the city, the way in which different ethnic groups and different economic levels continue to recycle the same buildings and the same streets over the decades.